most budgets are total BS. So today we're going to talk about what you are doing wrong with your budget and what to do instead. Let's go. Okay, so today we are going to talk about all things budget. And I do believe that budgets have an important place in our financial world. They can help us make better decisions, they can help us plan for the future, and they can help us actually break really bad finance patterns. But the truth is I think most people don't do budgets very well. We grab a spreadsheet, we throw some numbers on it, and we hope for the best. So today I want to show you a new approach to building a budget, and one that will actually help you break patterns and break habits that are standing in your way from getting ahead financially. If you are committed to growing your business and becoming a better you, make sure to subscribe to this channel, hit that like button on this video so you get all of the news when we talk about things like finance, productivity, and creative ways to help grow your business. So what is a budget? A budget is actually a really simple snapshot of money you think that's going to come in and money you plan that's going to go out. That's all it is. Money coming in, money going out. And it does become a really important piece of being self-employed and having a business because it helps us make better educated financial decisions about what is going on in our world. And I also think it's really important because by doing a budget, and especially the way I do budgets, is we take out these mystery numbers. Because the mystery of it all is where a lot of fear and insecurity about money comes from. So it's really important to get clear so you can make educated, better decisions. And so here's one of the important things I wanted to say today. Talking about money can bring up a lot of emotions for a lot of people. Whether we have enough of it or we feel like we don't have enough, there's an emotional attachment to the idea around money and finances. So give yourself the space today to be present with those feelings, acknowledge them, but also know that just by talking about it, you're taking steps to move forward. So give space for all of those feelings to come up, whatever they may be, and have confidence in yourself. You got this. So when we talk about budgets, there are two key areas that I want you to focus on: fixed and what I call fluid or variable. Now, a fixed expense is something that doesn't really change from month to month. So this could be things like rent or business insurance or a phone service. Those things tend to be pretty consistent. And one of the ways I like to think about it is if you won a month-long all-inclusive cruise and you pieced out, what bills would still need to get paid while you're sipping Mai Tais on a beach? So what are those things that are really not going to move from month to month, even year to year, or they may only move a little bit, like a cell phone bill, right? Those are going to be pretty consistent, and those are what we call fixed expenses. And so the next piece we talk about is fluid expenses or variable expenses. And these are the things that you're going to have a little bit more freedom and flexibility with. So while you're on this beautiful cruise around the world, maybe you don't have to pay it that month. And for a lot of people, that can also mean things that can vary in cost. So when you have more money, you buy more of them. Or if you have less, you can conserve and kind of cut back. So some areas on a personal level could be things like food. Yes, food's a necessity, but there's a big difference between buying groceries every week and cooking at home and going out for every single meal. So that's where we have a little bit of that beautiful decision-making power, right? It can also actually be even things like fuel for your car. So if you're gone away for a month on this beautiful, cruise and dream vacation, you're not buying gas. Or maybe you have an option to take more transit, take less Uber. There is decision-making power and more decision-making power when it comes to these fluid expenses. And to start off, that's actually one area where we're going to dig deeper. So the number one piece of advice I can give you around budgeting is to get real and get clear. Because in a lot of ways, when we build budgets, budgets are kind of like diets where, it's Sunday night and you're sitting at home and you're like, okay, tomorrow I'm going on a juice cleanse and I'm going to go to the gym every single day of my life. And then real life happens. You have a child that gets sick, so you can't go to the gym, or you just wake up and you don't feel like it. Or someone brings in a birthday cake and you're like, yep, there goes the juice cleanse because I'm going to hit that chocolate. So it's really important to get clear and get realistic on what you actually spend in a month right now, because you can change those behaviors, but you need to know what they are. So the first step is look back to move forward. So if you're a cashless gal like me, one of the ways to do this is to go through your historical bank statements, credit card statements, anywhere from 1, and I would suggest all the way up to 3 months. Because 3 months is going to give you a pretty accurate picture of what your life may look like in normal life, the day-to-day. When I first did a budget, I was like, oh, okay, sure. I knew what my rent was, no problem. Car payment's okay. And I guess, I don't know, I spend $300 a month on food. And I put it in, and that was the original budget I was working with. Then I did this exercise, the looking back and getting, going through my bank statements and credit card statements. And I realized that on average, I was actually spending over $700 a month on food. And a big part of that is, yes, I do travel a lot, so there's lots of meals out. But in my mind, I set my budget with a number I was comfortable with, not what I was actually spending. So it is really important to be realistic, because if your budget is full of numbers that are BS, it's not going to help you. So this is challenge number 1. We're going to look at those expenses and we're going to look backwards. Now, if you are not a credit card debit person, you're paying for things with cash, no problem. The challenge for you starts today, and you are going to write down every time you spend money. So you're going to write down, groceries, gas, anytime that money is leaving your hands and going into somebody else's, you're going to write it down. You can do this in a logbook. You can do it in the notes sections on your phone. You could snap a picture of the till every time you shop. You can snap a picture of a receipt. Whatever you need to do, start by doing this and do it for at least 1 week and a normal week. So obviously don't do it if it's a week that you're going to a ton of weddings or you're out of town, like whatever is a normal week for you. And if you can, do it up to at least a month. That's going to give you a really good foundation of data that then you can build an actual budget on. So step 1, however you do it, look back to move forward. So once you've gone back, you've collected all those credit card statements or bank statements, or you've tracked things for a month or a week, you're going to bring all that information together and you're going to tally up what you're spending monthly. And you're going to do it in specific categories. In the notes below, I will link to a sheet that will give you some really common categories to help you get started. So go ahead, download that and use that to help yourself get organized. So once you've gone through all those statements, you have a really good picture of what you spent over the past few months. Now is the time where we get to use that beautiful decision-making power and make changes in our life. Now, here's the thing. Money is really a habit. And most of us have habits that we've learned from childhood. We've learned from external sources, how our parents spent money, what media we're exposed to about money. So there really is often a big mind shift and commitment to changing the habit in order to get ahead. I said earlier that I liken budgets to diets. And it's true. We make budgets based on the best possible outcome of self. Okay, that's all great and good, but we forget that we are humans and we are actually creatures of habits. So whether it is getting ahead with your health or getting ahead with your money, we need to look at those habits and create new ones. So I'll give you a little bit of an example, going back to that whole idea of diets. Let's say Sunday night you decide you're going to go on a juice cleanse. This is what is important to you and is a health reset for you. Let's say every day you walk past a donut shop, and donuts are your most favorite thing in the entire world. How long do you think it's going to be before, after a really bad day at the office, or you skipped lunch because you had a meeting or a meeting ran late. How long do you think it's going to be before you stop at that donut shop on your way home? Because it's a habit, right? And there's nothing wrong with donuts. Let me be really clear about that. But it's a habit. So if you are walking past that donut shop every day, change your route. And that's what we need to do with our money as well too. We need to look at where our habits are taking us in a negative direction and change the route. So I'll give you a personal example. I have what I like to call SISI syndrome, which is see it, spend it syndrome. And it's true, I've never been a saver. It's not something that has come to me naturally throughout my life, even though I started my first job when I was 12. I've never had that focus or drive to save and have a stockpile of money. If there's money in my bank account, I will find a way to spend it, whether it's paying, off a tax bill, or it is purchasing a piece of equipment for my business. I will justify that in my brain. So I know that about myself. When I've looked back at this information, I go, oh girl, you are spending. So the changes I've had to make and the relief I found has been to automate my savings. So with certain clients I work with, I know I get paid on certain dates. That's always consistent. Right away on that date of payment, I've set up an external bank account. So one I don't see every day when I'm checking my online banking. So I've set a certain percentage. That's a consistent payment, and it just goes off and I don't even have to think about it. And it lives in that savings account and does whatever it needs to do. So that's looking at a habit or a pattern and finding a way to change the route. And for some of you, it may be things, which is a big one, meals out. And I get it. We don't want to take away that social fun aspect of it. If a budget is restrictive, like a diet that's really restrictive, it's not going to last, right? You're not going to be able to implement it and you won't stick to it. So it's figuring out what is realistic for you and possibly finding solutions around it. Maybe instead of, going out every week for the girls on Friday nights, one night a week you have everybody over and you cook together. Pour a little bit of wine and have some fun. There's different ways to make it work. So it's looking first at identifying what the pattern or habit is, and then getting a little bit creative around the solutions you can have. And a big part of that is to sit and figure out your why. Why is this purchase or why is this expense important to you? And if you can unpack that a little bit, then you'll be able to find even better solutions. So when we look at the expense side of things, there's really 4 areas that you're embracing to make these shifts. The first one is awareness, getting really clear and getting real on what you actually spend. And the second part is looking at those behaviors and figuring out ways that you can replace them with better money habits. And the third piece of this puzzle is repetition. The more often we do something, the easier it becomes a habit. So it's the same thing with money. The more often we repeat healthy and good behaviors that bring us closer to our goals, the easier it becomes really a normal part of your day. And the fourth piece of this expense puzzle is automation. Do whatever you can now to automate your expenses. So have them come out automatically of your bank account and go into your savings. Have bills that get paid automatically on your credit card. Have a credit card payment that automatically comes out of your bank account. Do you see where I'm going here? The more consistency we have with managing our finances, the easier it will become and will actually be reflective of what we're truly spending. Okay, so we've been talking a lot about money going out and expenses. So let's talk about money coming in. And I think it's important to do the same exercise we did with expenses. Look at your bank accounts and figure out where that money is coming in. And the flip side of that is to find a way unique to you to celebrate that. And it can be things like, I know some people will frame the first dollar they made in their business. Or something that I do is I do have a budget on a spreadsheet, and I'll link below with an example. But I love putting money coming in green, which I know is probably super nerdy, but it's something that makes me feel good. And it's a way to celebrate money. Or maybe for you, it's you have a goal chart. You have a goal that you want to have X number of dollars of savings in the bank. And so you color in those lines the closer you get to that goal. As much as we focus on expenses and balancing expenses and ways to save, we do need to focus on celebrating the aspects of our lives where we are abundant, because that actually will balance things out for us long term and help us sustain those really great habits and patterns that we're building. So you do you, whatever you need to do, but celebrate when that money comes in. Because this is great. We've gone through, we've identified where we're spending, what habits we may need to change. We now know how we're going to celebrate our abundance. But really, at the end of the day, most people want to know, and reasons they want to do a budget is so they get ahead. So I have 2 rules to help you do that. My magical rules of making money. Are you ready? Earn more, spend less. Honestly, that's it. It's not complicated. And I've heard people say, yeah, but Jen, what about this or this or no? At its core, that's what money does. It flows in, it flows out. So if you really truly want to get ahead, where are the areas in your life that you can either make more money or spend less? So that's it, gang. And I know we covered a lot. You thought you were just going to get some cheesy little budget spreadsheet work through. Nuh-uh, that's not how I roll. I want these tools to really work for you and help you get ahead and reach whatever goals that you are setting for yourself. So really it boils down to 4 things. You want to get really clear on your fixed expenses, the things that do not shift and do not change. Part 2 is to look back to move forward on those fluid expenses, because that's really where you have decision-making power. The third part of it is to look at that data and information you've collected and figuring out what patterns do you have and how you can shift them to be in a healthier financial position. And 4, embrace Jen's magical rules of making money. Make more, spend less. Thank you so much for joining today. And don't forget to grab those resources posted in the description below. And I wish you all the best on your budgeting adventures. Bye for now.